I had a very interesting conversation with Christian Kromme, a futurist who speaks all over the world. He shared with me the 7 waves of technology and how they will make us more human.
So Christian, what is it that you actually do? How would you describe it yourself?
Oh wow, I do a lot of things. I'm an entrepreneur, investor, I speak a lot. I'm a public speaker, keynote speaker. I'm a filmmaker, an author. So basically I do all kind of things that I really like, but all focused on one thing, and that's creating a specific way of level of consciousness within organizations and to raise that level of consciousness. So that we going into a different direction that we're going right now with our society. Yeah. So that's my main focus, and I wrote a book about it, and I'm currently working on a movie because people consume a movie in a different way than a book. It's much more easy to consume the information. So I hope that with using the video I can use or reach a wider audience. Eventually 1 billion. So if you say it quickly,
1 billion people.
1 billion people is my end goal. So if I reach that amount of people, then I'm done.
And you're traveling all over the world with your keynotes.
Yeah.
What is your angle in raising consciousness? What is the story that you bring?
The story that I bring, basically a couple of years ago I discovered during the search to my daughter's health, she was very sick, and we needed to find a different kind of cure because the hospitals couldn't help her anymore. She had a terminal diagnosis. So I started my own journey, my own quest, and start to look in a more holistic way. And what I found out is that if we look more closely to our body, we are a community of trillions of cells working together in harmony in a very coherent way. And by researching the body from a different perspective, I found out that if you look back in the evolution of biological organisms, is that organisms with biological systems evolved in a specific way. And I find out that they go through 7 disruptive waves. So individual cells within cell communities use biological systems to build organisms, and they do that in 7 big disruptive waves. And what I found out is that currently, today, we human beings, sapiens, are going through this same process, but now it's not cells using biology to build organisms, it's now humans or sapiens using technological systems to build organizations. And from that angle, I present a view into the future, a window into the future, and I explain where, based on these waves, technology is going and where society is going and what will be the impact on individuals, on organizations, on our jobs, on the products that we build, the services, etc. So it's more from a corporate or more technological angle, but basically it's about raising the level of consciousness within organizations, so helping these organizations from one wave to the other and evolve to a more holistic form of organization, like a swarm of birds. Yeah.
So what are the 7 waves?
Well, the 7 waves, I will start with biology, that makes it more clear for technology. The first wave was about 1 billion years ago. Individual cells start to communicate with each other, start to share information in a very rudimentary form, and it helped them to collect in larger groups, communities. And when these communities grow, they encountered all kinds of problems. And the first wave was all about communication, and they start to gather in coral-like structures, bone-like structures, and that keep them safe from the environment, but also help them to filter food from the environment. After a while they grow bigger and bigger, and they needed some kind of infrastructure. So they start to develop a digestive system, a vascular system to bring the nutrients and energy and building blocks from the outside world to the inside world within the community to serve all the individual cells and empower them with energy. After a while, these organizations became even more complex, and they start to develop nervous systems, senses, to become more aware of the environment, so they increase their survival rate in that way. And the 4th wave is all about automation, because at a certain level these organisms became so big and so complex, there was so much information going over these nerve networks that they needed some kind of CPU and operating system to automate all the internal processes. And that's the reptile brain, which is automating all the processes in your body. If you wake up, your heart is already beating, your body is 37 degrees Celsius. Everything works. The 5th wave is all about the limbic brain, or the mammal brain, the social brain, and it helps organisms to remember situations, environments, behavior but also other animals. So they become more social, and they could learn from previous behavior, but also learn from other organisms. So they could learn and evolve even faster. And the sixth wave was all about the neocortex brain, which is the ability to learn and adapt in real time, to solve bigger problems, to create tools for ourselves, fire, weapons and stuff. And finally, the prefrontal cortex is the latest biological upgrade, and it helps organisms to develop language, but also to visualize things that are not yet there, or understand conceptual things like the state or religion or companies, which are all conceptual ideas. So, and by having the ability to have language or communicate with each other, organisms entered the first wave of the next 7 waves. It's like music. You have an octave, new octave. So the first wave was the agricultural revolution, where people start to share ideas, concepts, start to develop villages, stone-like structures that keep them safe from the environment. But it also helped them to filter food from the environment more efficiently by having cattle or creating large fields of vegetables and fruit, etc. After a while, the communities became bigger and bigger, and they needed some kind of solid infrastructure. So in the Industrial Revolution, they started to develop industries, so the digestive system, but also a vascular system. So with raw materials, they created iron for railroads, oil pipelines, and eventually the energy grid. And the funny thing is, in my presentations, you can see it, is that the visual structures of the organisms, how they solve the problem and how we are solving the problem, are basically the same. You can lay them on top of each other. So when we basically invented electricity, we entered the next wave about telecom. So we started to send messages over a long distance using telegraph, radio, television. We started to develop sensors like the microphone to create radio, a camera to create television and stuff, and eventually the internet as we know it today. And after a while, there was so much information flowing over these networks, our organizations became bigger and bigger. So we needed some kind of automation. So in the 50s, 60s, companies like IBM started to develop the Reptile Brain of organizations, which is the CPU, the computer, operating system, software routines that help to do people software routines multiple times after another. And then we entered the sixth wave.
Sorry, the fifth. I think.
Each wave also in biology it's cutting in half the time, and the impact is twice as high because each wave is a platform which helps to launch the next wave. So the first wave was about 12,000 years, agricultural revolution, industrial revolution 400 years, telecom was about I think 60 years or so. Automation wave was about 30 years, and the social media wave, which we have just come out of, started in 1998 and it ended I think in 2018, and that was basically the limbic brain of our society. So we started to share information, store information online, websites, photographs, videos, all kind of information, and it helped us with big data analytics to analyze behavior from the past but also from each other, to learn, to become more social and to start to collaborate in a much bigger scale. And today, I think last year, we entered the sixth wave, and this is the equivalent of the new cortex brain, which is AI, artificial intelligence in the cloud, machine learning, deep learning, smart chips, algorithms that help us to learn and adapt in real time, but also to solve problems which are much more complex than we can solve today. And finally, 10 years from now, I think we will enter the seventh wave.
That's exciting.
Let's get exciting. And the seventh wave is all about like the prefrontal cortex. It's like visualizing things that are not yet there. So augmented reality, mixed reality. Today there are very ugly devices, but I think in the future they will be very tiny and designy like devices that help us to see virtual things in our reality. So a blended reality. So we can have a conversation with, like we have today, with someone in Australia, and you're not sitting in the same room, but you experience it because it's so photorealistic that you are in the same room and have a very human experience. And I think that will blend all the structures that we have today. Organizations are people in a building working together, but we will go to new kind of organizations where people can collaborate on a global scale. AI can translate already 40, 50 languages in real time, so languages will not be a bottleneck anymore. Distance, time, space, all these things will become irrelevant if we are going into the seventh wave. What I also discovered is that with each wave, our organizations grow a tenfold. So in the first villages were 300 or 400 people. managed by one big chief. The next wave, industrial wave, was about 4,000 people. So Henry Ford was already very happy when he was able to manage 3,000 or 4,000 people in their factories. The third wave, AT&T, these kind of big telecom companies managed 40,000 people, which is already quite complex. IBM, 400,000 people. And today we have companies like Uber, which are managing almost 4 million people in real time using smart algorithms. And based on my model and my predictions, I think the next wave will be about organizations of 40 million people working together. And in the seventh wave, 400 million people working together. So we will not have separate entities anymore. Organizations will blend into society. You can do multiple things during the day which are related to what you really are, what you like. And you can use technology to project that, your real self, into the world and share and collaborate with other people. So I think therefore we are, if we like it or not, will be pushed towards a different time where we will not operate from the ego, from me, gathering money and stuff, but more from an ecosystem, so collaborating with other people, using blockchain technology to do trusted transactions with people you have never seen before. All these kind of things. So I believe that the technology will push us towards a new era where I think you can call it a spiritual revolution, where the environment is not that interesting anymore, but it's going about the inside world, not the outside world anymore. And therefore I believe that things like purpose, being aligned with yourself, with your environment, becomes more and more important. And today it's a luxury to have a purpose, to do purposeful work, but in the future I think it will be a necessity to do.
And why is this? Why will all this technology, when you talk about 2030, for example, in the society you just described, why is purpose more important, or knowing yourself?
I believe that technology is a mirror and an amplifier. It will reflect what's on our inside. And so if you have nothing inside, if you don't have a mission, you don't have a vision or creativity, there's nothing to amplify, there's nothing to mirror. And I think the people without a purpose, or people which are focused on hard skills, which is 80% of our current economy, will soon be outperformed by machines, which will be 1,000 or 1,000,000 times cheaper, more efficient and faster. So in that way, I think it's a necessity to go to that next level and to develop a strong sense of purpose, to have a mission in your life, and to use technology, to leverage technology to reach, for example, 1 billion or 1 million people or 100 people. It doesn't matter. So I think therefore it's also the way to create happiness on the long term. Today we have a consumption society. So you buy stuff, you're happy for a while, and then you're dissatisfied. So you need to buy something else. But I think if you do what you really like, what you want to do, or what you're here for, you create happiness on the long term, because you can be who you truly are, your authentic, genuine self. And I think that's very important, and technology will push us there. So I don't think we have a choice.
And how do you think are we doing now when it comes to living a purposeful life, when you look at society and when you look at leadership and entrepreneurship in organizations?
We're doing pretty bad, I think. Yeah. Most of the time I use the analogy with nature. So if you have a caterpillar, in the last days of his life, he's eating 200 times his own weight. He becomes fatter and fatter, and that's basically the environment that we live in today. The governments, the banks, the big corporations, they are creating profit more and more. But at a certain time, its structure starts to become more solid. It's becoming a cocoon, and the inside becomes fluid. So all the cells become a nutrition soup for creating something different. And I think that's happening today. The old system, the caterpillar and the butterfly, are living or are there at the same time. They coexist at the same time. So it's a very messy world, and at a certain time, this nutrition soup should transform to the butterfly, and therefore you need imaginary cells. And imaginary cells are single-celled organisms within a soup, which are like the leaders, visionary leaders of today, which are developing the same language, start to resonate with each other, start to develop networks, and after a while, with the exponential speed, all the other cells in the soup start to transform to the DNA of the butterfly, and the butterfly is there. So I think the future economy will be like the butterfly, like nature, but now we are still in the end period of the caterpillar, entering the cocoon period, which is a very messy world. Brexit, Trump, we see all kind of strange things. So our world basically is already liquefying on a government level, but also on an organizational level. Many people become a freelancer or self-employed. So you already see that it is liquefying, and new structures are already there in platforms, but they should grow faster. And that's also, I think, the tipping point. These platforms should be there. If they are not there, we fall back and go back to start, like Monopoly.
So we can take a wrong direction somewhere.
I think, if the people who should follow their purpose right now to be the imaginary cells are not purposeful, and the structure is not, the new structure is not built, then we can fall back, I think. And it happened many times before, but it will become more difficult now, but we are in a very critical time right now.
Why is that?
Because if there are not enough imaginary cells which can inspire all the other cells in that cocoon, it will die, because it's not an animal anymore, it's a soup of cells. So there's no structure anymore. So it will be chaos. There's no way back. But on the other hand, if we should be thankful to governments and large organizations, because these are the caterpillars. You don't step on caterpillars if you want to have butterflies. So we should be thankful that they brought us here, but they won't bring us there. So we need new structures, new leaders, new leadership, new mindset, full of purpose to get to that next stage. And we are already gone through the tipping point on the technology level. Automation was the middle wave. So now we are going into an opposite direction, more fluid, more holistic. But it's important that more and more people are affected or injected with this purposeful virus, and that it goes exponentially fast.
And are you optimistic about this?
I'm very optimistic, but there are some struggles ahead, I think. It won't be a flawless or a smooth ride. I think there will be a huge disruption on a government level, on a healthcare level, education. Every big industry will be disrupted. It's already happening right now, but I think we ain't seen nothing yet. I think it's going to be a 10 or 100-fold worse than today. And that's not bad for individuals, but bad for large organizations who wants to keep themselves alive. We should transform to that butterfly, but you don't want to stay in that caterpillar shape. And that's, I think, the biggest struggle. So big organizations want to transform, but basically they don't want to have the pain, because it's a painful process. It's not fluid. So I think that's the current problem. The caterpillar wants to save itself, preventing going into that cocoon state, but it's already doing it automatically. And we see it everywhere. Society is becoming more static. The rules that we have, governments, organizations become more static, and people want to go break loose again. And we need to create a spark to make that happen. And that's my purpose, my personal purpose.
I really enjoy the clarity in which you explain your vision on what's happening now and your vision on the future. It's really love it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, but basically it's just like nature. It's very simple. But if you see the whole picture, it becomes all very clearly. And then that's why I want to create a movie, because a book it's textual, it's cognitive. But if you see a movie with the right music, then it starts to resonate on a different level. You can feel it, and I think that's more important with these kind of messages. And that's also why I do a lot of keynotes, because I think that's a way to inspire, but also transform people. And afterwards, a lot of people say to me, "Oh wow, I quit my job at the big corporate, and I started my own business doing transformative coaching or whatever." So it's happening already, but it's not fast enough.
So how do you, for yourself, you just mentioned your purpose, how do you feel when you are living in alignment with your purpose? How does it work for you?
I feel it when I'm not in my head. If I'm in the push modus, so I want to push things into the world, then I'm here. And sometimes it's okay to do things, to manifest things, but I think if you really want to be aligned with yourself, you have to be in your body, in the here and now, be present. So I meditate, I do yoga, all these kind of things. And I do things which are feeling right at that moment in time. And I think purpose is not a destination or a point on the horizon. It's being aligned with nature, with the big collective. Being yourself, being present is, I think, the shortest way to get there. And that's why we also try with the platform to Currently, people are basically in our heads, so people are educated to be cognitive. And we are educated to be motivated extrinsically, money, pension, whatever. But I think we should shift to a different form where people are motivated intrinsically, and then you don't care about money anymore, because if you follow your purpose, money comes automatically, or value, or whatever, to stay alive. So I think that's the easiest way to get people, to extract people from the current system into a new system, make them purposeful, and being aware of their purpose, because that's quite a journey. You cannot say to someone, okay, this is level 7, go there. No, you should tease them to go one step ahead and bring them to another level of consciousness. So it's a very hard process. But I think technology like AI, dialogue technology like AI, can help us to make coaching on purpose level more available on an individual level. It's also why I think that the next big companies that surpass Google and these kind of organizations will be educational companies, or focusing on welfare or well-being. That's the top of the pyramid of Maslow. So so being present, being in here and now, I think is the quickest way to get there. But our entire society is not focused on that. You should be here, and you should be a doctor or a lawyer, which are the professions with the highest rate of people who are manically depressed. So it's a strange society we live in today.
So pretty soon we will leave the 7th wave behind us. What do you know what the next octave will be?
I think like all the other octaves. Recently I found some research from Arthur M. Young. He's the founder of the inventor of the Bell helicopter. So it's often called in the same sentence with Albert Einstein, etc. And what he did is he discovered also these 7 waves, but on a cellular level, on a molecular level, on an atom level, on a nuclear level, and on a light level. And he made a matrix, and my research is complementing his research. And if you put it in a matrix, then you can see correlations and patterns. And what I think where we are going to today is towards a world where we live in a coherent way, just like all the cells in our body live in a coherent way. And if we reach that state, then we can and will be able to create technology to go to the next planet, which Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are already doing with SpaceX and Blue Origin. So they go to Mars and other planets. So I think 10 years or 20 years from now, we will develop technology which we cannot imagine right now, because the machines will be 1,000 times more intelligent than we have right now. So we will create vessels that can help us to go to other planets and start to populate that planet. So we start again with one single sphere, which is okay, and then we go to the next sphere, and then we start to enter the first wave again, which is communication between those planets. Then create infrastructure, then create an information network, then automate things. So I think we will go from the planet to perhaps our solar system, and the next wave after that, the next 7 waves after that, will be perhaps a bigger part of space. So I think that we won't be surpassed by smart robots or so. I think technology it's an empty vessel. It's only a reflection of us. So we needed to reach the next level, but it won't be the machines that surpass us and go forward and we all die or something. I think we needed to reach that level, and then we are free in that sense. So.
And after we conquered our own galaxy, we will enter the multiverse.
Perhaps, I think. But also, I truly believe that technology in the end will be holographic, will be basically everything is light. If you go back to the pieces of an atom, you go to photons and stuff. So when technology also reaches that level, and they're already building chips and data transfer with quantum computers and stuff, so then we reach a level, I think, that we can manipulate matter and living things, which is like consciousness already doing right now, but then we start to control that process. So in that sense, we become creators or godlike entities. I think that we will reach that stage sooner than we expect. People in Silicon Valley, they call it singularity or one specific point in time. when the robots will take over, but I think then the humans will take over, the real humans, which we still have to discover.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I have a different opinion, but I'm pro-tech. I like technology, and I think it will help us, but it's not a goal on its own. It's only facilitating us to become who we really are.
And are you enjoying the ride we make as a society?
It's going too slow, way too slow. So that's a bit frustrating for me. That's also my journey to stay in the moment and stay here in here and now, to solve the problems now. Because in my mind, I'm already in 2020 or 30 in a world which is more a good society.
That's your job in a way.
That's my job, to think about it, but also to get back to here. And because I'm very comfortable there, but to stay here and make a difference here and now. And that's my really my challenge. Because I'm there again and have to get back and be present in my body and make the change here. So.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.